I'm gonna make a lot of people mad with this. What's up guys, my name is Andy. This video was supposed to be about doing a little paint restoration on this truck and then installing some mirrors on the doors, but I quickly realized when I started to do the wet sanding and polishing that I'm probably not your guy to tell you how to do this stuff. You know, like the rest of us who watch some videos on YouTube, do a little looking online for some tips and tricks. And it's one of those things where if you've never done it before, it's kind of a steep learning curve trying to figure out what sand grit to start with, and how hard do you push, how long do you stay in one area. And it makes sense that, you know, the lower the grit, the smaller the number, the more abrasive it is, and the more damage it will do, or the more material it can take off in a short amount of time. And so the more pressure you add, or the longer you stay in a spot, the more, you know, you could ruin the paint, or you might not do enough. I started on it and I figured I would start to do a video on it, and I quickly realized that that this isn't going to turn out like I want to, because I don't know enough about this stuff. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's see what I did, and then we can take a look how the truck came out. So if you feel on here, you can hear how rough it is, and there's a lot of chunks, and there's even little like moss growing on here or something like that, but it's pretty rough. If you go over here, see how smooth it is? And I already did this corner just to make sure I got it right. And all I did was first I did the polishing with the foam pad, and it got a lot of it out, but I you know, made it smooth. But I came back with it with one of these 1000 grit just by hand, and just sprayed some water in here and smoothed it down. I went too deep right here, so I didn't want to, you know, you got to be careful. You can't take off too much. We just need to just buff it up, and then we can come back across it with a polisher. So I'm going to do a 1000 grit first across here, and I might step up to a 2000 and a 3000 and do this whole panel with an orbital sander, and then come back with a polisher and see if we can get that to sound like that. So that was, I didn't film very much. Again, like I said, I knew that this is going to take, well, a lot longer than I thought it would. I have probably 3 to 4 hours in the work that I've got here. And I did not do the hood. I left that. I did do the fenders, and then of course the doors and the side of the bed and the tailgate and stuff, and the roof of the truck. But I left the hood. I'm gonna do probably you've heard it maybe called the Comet wash, or you know, using some Comet bleach and go to town on the rust on this hood. But again, that's probably gonna be another video, or maybe not. Maybe it won't be a video because I might do a bad job. But anyway, so the rest of the truck I got done, and for the most part, it came out great, right? This isn't gonna be a full restoration where it now looks like a brand new truck. I'm trying to preserve the patina, right? The wear on this paint as much as I can, and it came out all right. I learned a couple things along the way. You know, the washing out your polish pad up here on the roof of the truck, there's a lot of that reddish, whatever is this, I don't know if this was a primer or something on this before they put the paint on. I've seen other trucks with that same color below the paint, so I'm guessing that's what it is. But when you do the top, particularly up here where there's a lot of that paint gone, but the primer is exposed, it's kind of a reddish brown color, and so it actually turned a lot of the blue up here, that kind of a faded reddish color. I need to go back with a clean pad and repolish that, because I started to come down the side of the truck here, and it started to turn red, and so I had to stop, and again, learning curve, right? Trying to figure out what I'm doing, and washed out that polish pad and redid this area and made it blue again. So anyways, let's take a look with the camera and look down the bed of the truck here and see what kind of reflections we can see. Now, if you notice here, you see how, I mean, you guys can see the reflection, you know, of my yard and stuff in here. You couldn't see this before. This was just chalk, blue chalk before. And in fact, I don't know if you can, it's pretty hard to tell in this, but how dull this is. Forgetting the sound, you know, this is kind of what it looked like before, but now, I know, hitting this part right here with these curves, you can see how shiny that is. As you move down the bed of the truck, or the door in the bed, and you can see how shiny this is up here. This came out great. It's still a little, you can still hear a little bit of the texture that's in the paint still. I didn't quite get all of it down, but it is a lot shinier than it was before, and it really helped bring the truck back and looks pretty dang good. Let's look at the other side. As you come down this side, again, there's not a lot on this side of the garage to see reflections, but you can see outside. And again, this turned out fantastic. This was that corner that I said that I did, you know, in the beginning of that little clip I just was showing you, but it's really smooth. But I spent a lot of time on this corner trying to figure out what I was doing. And so that's why this thing turned out fantastic. And it's really fairly smooth, but then here it's not quite as good because I'm trying to perfect my technique. Also, and you see I got down to the metal right there. That wasn't exposed before, so that was just too much pressure, too long a time on that. Might have been too low of a grit. You know, I started with a 1,000 grit. It was amazing how much material that takes off. I was using one of these. This is a wet sand or dry sand pad. It's 1,000 grit, and it's actually really smooth. But wow, does it come off fast? I switched from this to the 2,000 grit not very long after I started, and I went through 3 pads pretty quickly. I mean, these things are shredded. This is 1 truck's worth, and I probably should have had a 4th pad. I probably should have done 2 pads per side, right? Or, you know, if you split the top of the truck and stuff like that, I probably made these last a little longer than I should have. And I started to notice little black fibers from this as I was sanding, and I could tell this thing was starting to go, so I swapped them out. And anyway, so those are gone. So I did 1,000 grit to start. I thought I was taking off too much material, and I'm sure it was been fine if I had just left it, but I switched over to 2,000 and I did most of the truck with 2,000, and that's how I think I come back and I can feel there's still some abrasiveness there that I didn't quite get it. Maybe the 1,000 would have got it. So I can definitely come back and do the truck again, and I may do that down the road. It's a big consumption of time, and that's something that trying to balance, having enough time to do this, but also it's not gonna be show quality, and that's not the point of this. It's just to kind of bring back some life, you know. And when you say paint restoration, it's a little bit of a stretch, right? I'm not really restoring the paint so much as I'm just, I don't know, putting a little life back into it, but I'm happy with it, right? That's the important part, right? Is with all these compound curves and stuff on here, it breaks up the light a lot, and you get a lot more reflections. And I think the truck looks fantastic. It's difficult for you to see it in the camera, you know, what I'm seeing. I mean, obviously you can't feel the paint, but it really did come back a lot better than I was expecting it to. I'm really kind of happy with my first timer newbie kind of try at this. So what's next? The next thing I wanted to do was the mirrors. What I've got are some just generic, you know, rectangle, square, whatever, just kind of a stylish mirror. It's actually kind of very similar to my Mustang in that it's just a plain mirror. This is rectangular versus the round ones, but I had those West Coast mirrors on this truck when I got it, and this is gonna set some people, I'm sure, on fire here. I don't really care for that style. Part of the problem is I can't fit the truck in the garage with those mirrors. They stick out so far that when I brought this truck home, trying to push it in, I had maybe an inch on each side trying to thread the needle, getting this truck in the garage, and I don't want to have to worry about clipping those things every time I pull the truck in and out. And that style is not what I'm looking for. This is closer to what I'm wanting, right, is this style. So I want to put these on the truck. But there aren't holes for this. In fact, the holes in the door are for the West Coast mirror connection. Thankfully these two are outside of the door seal, so any water that gets in here will just run down the outside of the door. It's not gonna get in the cab. I may put some fasteners or something in there just to block off these holes. I don't know what I wanna do with those yet, but this right here, this particular guy, is gonna be the problem. There's actually quite a bit going on here. the metal is, there's probably, looks like a 16th or 1/8 inch of material, of Bondo or something, that somebody tried to repair this in the past, and it's starting to peel up. I don't want to take this chunk off. I'm nervous about doing that, so I'm trying to leave that. The footprint of the mirror will cover this, but not 100%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some silicone and just lay that in here just to kind of create a little bit of a seal. And then there's that black gasket piece that goes down underneath the mirror. I'm going to put that on here and then drill, I got the holes drilled and put the mirror, hopefully it'll sit right here. It'll clear this here, it'll clear the wing window, and I can still use the mirror. But this is going to be a problem for future Andy, because I'm not ready to deal with this. I need to peel all this, pick all that stuff off and get all down to that metal and clean it up and then bring it back up, and that's just not what I'm ready to do today. So this one's going to be kind of a pill. The other side's not so bad. See, this is pretty smooth. Well, it's smooth now because I polished all this, but there's not a lot. I mean, you can tell, well, hard to tell on the camera, but I can see there's still some mud underneath here from when somebody had patched this up or something, because it looks like it had been treated one time. But I'll do the same thing. I'll put just a little bit of silicone in here just to kind of seal this up, and then put that black gasket piece from the mirror down, screw it in, and all that kind of stuff, and we should be good, and this part will be sealed. Again, same thing with this side. These holes are just going to have to be exposed for now. I don't really want that steel out in the weather, but I don't know what the answer is right now, and I don't want those West Coast mirrors on my truck, so this is kind of what I'm left with. So this, I'm going to have to find the perfect spot, because one of the issues is that the way this footprint of this thing is in the side, I don't want this to get in the way of seeing the mirror. Man, that's going to be difficult. This might be, I might have to sit a little higher than I want, just so that it can be usable. Open that up. Yeah, so we just want to make sure that we clear that guy, which we will clear. That's good. Man, again, that's where those West Coast mirrors, or those ones where they've got like the footprint that goes here and here, and they're kind of a bigger mirror that hang out here. They all work great, but they're not the style I'm looking for, and I don't want a really wide truck, particularly with my garage, trying to fit it in here. So here's that gasket thing I was talking about. And if we put it right there to cover as much as we can of those holes, that's probably the best I'm gonna get here. Yep. And I don't know that, I mean, if we were to put it up higher, it would be a little better for seeing more of the mirror, but then I still have that problem. I gotta be able to deal with that. All right, so drill the center of those two holes, and that will be locating the mirror. All right, we're gonna mark with a punch right where the center is, so a place for the drill bit to go. All right, drill in the hole. All right, now going back. All right, we're just gonna test fit this first, and then we can come back and put that silicone underneath here. All right, that's about as good as we're gonna get. Trying to, again, cover those holes in there. Doesn't look too bad. Again, you can see, I'll have some silicone here that'll help cover that up, but definitely have a problem with that clearing. Definitely be able to see out the mirror here. I'll have to position that, get that dialed in, but isn't too bad. I think we can get away with that. All right, now let's go get that silicone. I'm just going to use some of this clear adhesive sealant RTV from Permatex, and this thing is as cleaned out as I can get it. We're just going to have to just cross our fingers that this will just buy me a little time until I can deal with it down the road. Again, I know this isn't really the best way to deal with this, but I don't know what I'm going to do about the paint on this truck, so again, this just is good, but just buy me some time. There, now I'm not going to touch that. I don't want to smear it. I mean, it doesn't look too bad right now. Just leave it alone and let it cure up, and then come back and I can dial the mirror in. Cool, let's get the other side done. All right, this one was a little bit more of a compromise. It's sitting a little lower than I like, but the biggest problem I had was the holes for the old mirror was just so much lower in the door, and so there's quite a bit of silicone in there to try to seal that up. But again, this is the compromise I had to make because of the mirror style that I wanted to do. So I'll mess with that once that cures up, but cool. All right, we're in place. All right, guys, so those are new mirrors on the truck. Again, it's a compromise, right? It's the best that I could do for the style I'm looking for and dealing with the doors that, you know, the holes I have. I took this truck into town to get it washed, took it to the car wash and pressure wash and all this stuff. It's amazing how much dirt these trim pieces will hold. But anyways, I didn't have side mirrors or even a rear view mirror. That's the first time I've ever driven a car without mirrors, and it was not fun. So this is something that I needed to get done fast, because the more I drive this truck, the more I'm gonna need something like this for driving around. So cool, the paint's restored and the mirrors are on, and we can get going on the next more projects that I have for the truck. So, all right guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.